To do a comparison of axes. A lot of people probably know this, but I wanted to show the differences in a few axes here. This is a boy's axe, and this is also different length handles, but the same size heads pretty much. What I want to talk about today is the thinness of the cheeks here and how well or how badly they do in different situations. So really, the thinner the cheeks and the thinner the edge, that the angle here, you will have a good cutter, a good slicer. It'll do a lot of camp chores as far as wood curls, splitting fine stuff and making really small stuff. Delimming is great, but chopping wood, as far as splitting wood, it should be not as good. So looking at that one is really thin. Here's kind of my all-around use one that I keep in the truck, and it has kind of thin cheeks, but it's beveled pretty steep in the end where the edge is here, and so you got this steeper edge, and it's better for splitting. But also it's more of an all-around axe where it will delimb, cut, and slice as well too. The one I just finished, which is a Man Company axe, Pennsylvania. It's really an oldie. I had a hard time getting the axe up to par. It was pretty pitted, but I sharpened it up really nice, and I haven't used it yet. I put on bank line for the handle here for the grip. I had to reshape the handle even to get it to work and be fitted right. Anyway, this is an axe where it is kind of thin as well, but kind of in between, and so I wanted to see how it would do. It's more like that ladder axe I had there, where the cheeks are thin, but it still has a fairly good bevel, and it may be good for splitting, it may not be. One thing about this axe is called a cruiser axe, and sometimes one side of the axe is sharpened at a steeper bevel and the other side is at a thinner bevel. This one's the same on both sides, but the loggers way back in the like 1926 is when this one was in its heyday. They would have the bevel steep on one side to get down and grub and maybe hit the dirt and not worry about the edge so much, and have it thicker where it could do that job. This edge though would be thinner, so they could walk along and delimb a tree so they could get it ready to buck up. Anyway, we're going to test these axes, mainly this one right here, to see how good it chops chunks out, and this really thin one that I really like. It's just a beautiful axe, and it's a Collins. Nice head, really sharp, but it's really thin for the cheeks and the sharpening edge. So let's take a look at them. But the best way is not to go against the flow of the branch, instead of going with it. If you go with it, it's usually easier to get the branch off. If you go against it, you may have a little bit more trouble because you're not going with the grain that way. So just a little lesson in delimbing. And also, of course, don't do this like this, because it could ricochet off and hit your leg. So get on this side and delimb. That was a pretty big limb there. Anyway, or stand on the other side of the tree itself, so that you have this area right here free, so the log is your protection. So that's Delimming, and this is the double bit man. This one here with the thin edge, this is the thinnest edge, should be the best for delimming. I'm not sure if I got the camera focused in the right place here, so I'll put her over there. This one should, by all means, delim really nicely because of the thinness of the edge, and you saw that it did. When you get into areas like this, that's kind of a danger there. You got to be careful of limbs sticking in the way, and your backswing. But yeah, that baby does a great job. So that's delimming. Chopping. And in chopping, you want to make sure you got a solid level type of a ground. Have your feet back so that you won't strike them if you miss or something. And so here we go. Well, it made me a liar. It did really good. Get it level here. So it did a good job. Let's see how the thicker beveled one does. I don't have a real hard surface like I said I should, but good enough. Well, it did real well too. So they both did well, but if you get a real gnarly, like here's a knot here, a gnarly piece, your thinner edge will go down so far and it may not go all the way through, but the thicker beveled one should. And I went beside the knot. Let's see if I can go through it. Yeah. Well, anyway, not really proving a point really there much, except that you're going to have to trust me, the thicker edge one would split this wood better than the thinner one. A lot of people say, well, you shouldn't even use an axe like this out in the woods to split wood. Well, if that's the only thing you got, you're going to have to use something. And this is one that I would take with me on the pack because it's so lightweight and a good cutting axe. And you usually don't have to deal with too big, round, heavy stuff anyway. So on with the review here. The real thin edge with the average size. And we'll see which one does better. I cleared out my area here so that I'm not obstructed by anything. Let's see how big a chunks this takes out. A little bouncy. Pretty good. Almost. Trying to wait for the bouncing to stop. There we go. Well, that's almost down. So, they're pretty good. Let's try the thin one. How well the two axes make the really fine stuff. And I'll start out with the cruiser. Let me get a piece here cut. Clumsy here. Got a little bit of a knot, but working well. This one, by the way, will cut paper. It's sharp. Let's see how well it does when we get down to the fine stuff, though. Like these pieces here. You got a bigger bevel on the blade. Theoretically, it shouldn't work as well. But I like my axe is sharp, so it's doing a good job anyway. Wow. Nice. A little bit harder to hold the axe because of its size, but man, I can't see any complaints there. Let's try the boy's axe. That's a little bit thinner. See how well it does. Oh yeah. So the boy's axe has a couple advantages. It's lighter, and it also has a blade that's thinner that gets into the wood right away, whereas the thicker bevel blade, see, I'm getting into tinier stuff here that I didn't before, more of your pencil lead size. So kind of proves that this one is better for this type of work. I can hold it better and get pieces off of here better. So I'd say the boy's axe won out on this, which I truly expected. Now what about making curls? Well, I can choke up on this one, and this isn't stout enough piece. Here we go. This axe, by the way, will cut paper too, and it's really sharp. I got a, here's a straight end here. You can make nice fine pieces with it, no trouble. Those are pretty thick right there, but now I can get some nice fine stuff like that, which you probably can't see. You're gonna have to trust me. Now the cruiser axe, getting some curls. Let's see if it's any worse or better. Well, it's harder to hold. This is more of a convex edge than that other one is, so it doesn't dig in as well. It does make them, but not as well. The thick edge here, I think, kind of makes it prone to not be as delicate. Let's try a nice straight piece. Part of it is that I can't hold this thing as easily, and so it's not the fault of the blade too much. Yeah, that's just harder, and doesn't quite do the job that the cutting axe will do. This digs right in and gets pieces off, no problem. One thing you can do with this double bit though is to do this. Take and stomp it in, and then take and pull on her, and you'll get nice fine stuff. And that's why I like a double bit in some ways, because you can do this. And it's kind of fun. So I'm getting some pretty fine stuff there. But again, you'd have to do this to do it easily. So all the axes have their advantages and everybody has their preference. The double bit you can sharpen on both sides differently. This is a cruiser, which loggers used to carry with them in the old days to delimb and knock out stuff on the base of the logs as well. This is a boy's axe, like I said, and it's one that I'd take on a backpack trip because it's not very heavy. It's thin, I can do a lot of work that a axe or a knife could do even, and it just feels really nice. And it's a Collins axe. Both are US made and both are fine axes, but they both have their advantages, so it depends on what you want to do with your axe, where you're going, what your wood is, etc. If it's hardwood, then if you're splitting, definitely use the thicker beveled one. If it's softwood like the pine here, you can use either one, and your preference of weight and style is important. This one won because of the chopping ability, cutting through the deal because of the thinness of the cheek, I think, and the blade. This one has the weight, but it stops sooner. It doesn't dig down as far. But I wouldn't discount either axe. I like them both. But there you go. Cruiser and a boy's axe. Thin and thick cheek. Got this double-edged man axe. In cutting something that is a bigger log, I think it's going to have the advantage because of the weight and the power stroke that you can put in it versus the boy's axe that's a thinner edge and a lot lightweight. Most of the time you wouldn't be cutting this stuff, but just to show, it takes out nice big chunks. So getting in with a big tree, you probably need a bigger axe that can cut better with the weight. So I'm about halfway through. Tired, but the double bit with the weight is the way to go in the bigger stuff. So didn't want to discount it totally as an axe not to take. Plus you got two edges. If you don't one, you still got the other. So I'm a big proponent of using a saw to cut up stuff like this. I think it's a lot of wasted effort to cut with an axe, but once you get it cut up, bucked up anyway, then use the axe to do the splitting. So I use each tool for the chore that they're really recommended for, I think. Something like this is kind of a mix. A handsaw, it would take a while to go through. A buck saw would be better. This will beat the handsaw probably, so whatever tool you want to use, but I thought I'd show you the big heavier axe the double bit in this case, which is the cruiser style, would be the way to go to do a tree like this. Okay, a lot of guys like this method for splitting a lot better than putting it on top of the log like so. I do a lot of on top or on the ground, but what's nice about this way is that you got the stump for safety, or the log. So if you hit and miss, it's never going to go this way. It's always going to go into the log. So it really works well, especially for longer pieces. Anyway, another way to cut, hit right in here so you're against the log, and see where the axe goes. This isn't a very good piece of wood. It's pretty dead, but you see the method. One thing about it, if you get into a piece like so, where it's got more knots, and you get into it like this, with the single bit axe, you could always actually hit the top, but us axe people really shy away from that. But a single bit, you could do that. Probably wouldn't hurt it with a piece of wood, but usually we use a wedge to put in and stamp it in instead, like so. Of course, I don't have it in the middle, but this is just for showing purposes. Anyway, a good way to split wood is to have your log like this, and so you can use it for protection. This pretty gnarly piece of wood here got a knot right there. And again, I'd put a wedge in here, or just keep hitting, move the log up a little bit and hit down further. There we go. One more whack and it should do it. Yeah, it's got a knot down here, but now you got the point of where you could put a wedge in and keep that part, pull your axe out, and you'd have it apart a little bit. Anyway, another way to chop wood, whereas it's safer and the ability to get the longer type pieces this way. This thing just doesn't want to go, so turn it around. I'm getting there. There we go. So you can get a nice long piece of wood, cut for firewood or whatever you're doing, and you're safe. Well, I thought I'd show you a technique for cutting a dead tree down. This one doesn't go up too high, about 20 feet or so. But some precautions, making sure that it's clear around the base before you start doing anything. Notice that limb there, I'll move it. And then of course the path that the tree falls is clear as well. It may hook up on that one that's leaning right there, but easily to get out of the way. So that's the first precaution. And this technique is real easy, especially on a real small tree like this. But what I'm going to do is take the saw and make a cut on the side that it's going to fall on. There, I think we got enough to knock it out of the way. Yeah, maybe not. There. Okay, after you get the undercut, then what I do, let me see if I got the camera focused here, yeah, is to start cutting so that you're going down. So I'll cut right above the undercut, right in here. And what I'll start doing is cut there, and then I'll work up a little bit, and the cuts will keep going in. So now I got a cut going. Now I'm going to work up a little bit, and it will go over pretty quick. Get on this side for a second. It really slices in there. And it's down. So they have a name for that cut. I can't quite remember it. Where you just work yourself up a little bit into the cut. And you can see it did fall a little bit on that tree, but nothing hard to get off. And you got a tree cut. Kind of fun, good way to get firewood with dead wood and a different type of cut. And you notice how the cuts went into this tree with that little boy's axe. It really sliced in deep. So good axe to use, but you don't want to get it wedged in as well. So things to remember.